Yo, what's up, Belmonte?
Hey,
How's it going?
What's going on, Mr. Tang?
Nothing much. Good to see you.
Likewise.
Hope everything's been good.
Everything's all right with you?
Yeah, everything's good. So, Trend 2, tell us the story. How did we get to where we are today?
That's a good question. So, in a real quick nutshell, my experience with collaborations has really evolved from timeless all the way through to Trend 2. So, as you could imagine, the tech and the science behind developing bowling balls, it's pretty tricky. So from the first collaboration, I was really just a passenger, kind of there to offer my input, but I had no idea about what a weight block is and how a weight block is designed, and then what the cover stocks are going to do with those weight blocks, and trying to find what those RGs, differential numbers, mean, and how to develop all that. So as we've gone through the entire collaborations, I've learned more and more, and Trend 2 now is really where I've been able to, I think, offer even more than I ever thought I was ever going to learn about, weight blocks and cover stocks and dynamics and all those other things. So when we sat down with Alex Hoskins, Steve Klomp, and Hank Bermashine, we sat down and we said, right, what do we want Trend 2 to do? That's the first thing. You've got to know what you want it to do. And we went through, especially with Trend, and we started to see a lot of people were using Trend, playing the ball a little straighter through the front part of the lane, trying to keep the ball more in play rather than give the pocket away. I mean, we saw this really clearly on tour where Francois Lavoie shoots 300 on TV with it, playing up 10. Simo won the qualification through the Players' Championship, throwing it kind of hard, up 12-13. And the more and more videos that were getting sent to me and I was getting tagged in, the more and more I kept seeing people really enjoying throwing Trend a little straighter. So I said to the guys, I said, I think we need to be able to build off of that. If you were to have a Trend already, you wouldn't want another ball to do exactly what Trend does, and we definitely don't want a ball to do. We don't want Trend to do what another ball in our marketplace already does. So we've got to kind of fill that void. So that's when I said to Alex Hoskins, I said, can we modify the weight block? So instead of just changing the cover stock to create a slightly different ball motion, can we actually modify this so we can generate our own ball motion through physics rather than the science of the cover stock? And he said, absolutely. What do you want to see done? And I said, well, I'm noticing that more and more people use Trend further and further left, the more that the engine inside really wants to start digging into the lane too soon. So it creates a very blended motion when you go further left. But when you're further right, that kick off the back end, that engine, it just kind of, the angle is perfect. So I'm like, we need to create a little more angle moving left, but I don't want it to rev and roll so early. It's got to float down the lane a little longer. So we had a whole bunch of test balls done, and I was able to throw a whole bunch of them and see what I liked. And this particular one that we threw, because of the modified weight block, it offers a little more length out of the ball before the weight block decides that it really wants to dig into the lane. What we did realise, though, was that, and if you look at the numbers, I think what Trend was 252.049, and Trend 2 is 254.041. And if you don't know a whole lot about numbers, you would think, well, there's really not that much variation between the two. Like, there's only a few numbers here. But we noticed that having that R2S pearl on the modified weight block, man, it just went so long and became super hard to control in the back end. So that's when we had to decide, well, what are we going to put on the outside of this ball, right? Like, this modified weight block is certainly giving us more length, and when it does want to change direction, it's definitely giving us that angle, but we can't have something too clean on the outside because it'll become really hard to manipulate and also to repeat. So again, we wrapped a whole bunch of test balls and a whole bunch of different cover stocks, and we just started throwing them and seeing which one we like. And this hybrid NRG cover stock, it just fit. It just seemed to, like, the puzzle pieces all just came together. So I was able to get about 5 to 6 boards further left than trend with ease. And it's not a motion in which you see that really long skid snap. That's not really the purpose of trend 2. The purpose was, how do we get left but still create angle with like that really beautiful kind of continuous motion.
Yeah, rolling off it rather than that hockey stick motion.
Exactly. And you would know probably more than anyone is when you start to get further left and you have that really angular hockey stick kind of reaction, yeah, you can strike a lot, but your bad shots get punished to the maximum. You're leaving 4 through the middle, 5 washouts. It's really difficult to repeat. And as much as I wish everybody could throw the ball accurately and repeat perfectly, it's just not the case. So you have to also have that in mind. If a 180 average league bowler who actually does create a little bit of rotation and curve the ball, well, how do we limit his bad shots from being 5 to potentially 9? And if he gets it right, we still need enough angle to go through the pins well. So that's what this modified weight block and the NRG hybrid cover in our research, that's what it did, is it when I shot it to the right a little too far, it didn't have that ridiculous angle that I left all weird stuff. If I missed it a little inside, I was more worried about leaving a 4-pin than I was a green church. And when I got it right, it just rolled really heavy at a continuous motion. So that's what we did. We put the cover with the modified weight block on top. We shined it up because NRG is still a really strong cover, and even though it's pearl or it's hybrid, it has 2 parts pearl, 1 part solid. No, 2 parts solid, 1 part pearl.
Okay, yeah.
We still wanted to see that ball float through the front. So giving it that little extra shine out of the box certainly helps with that. You know, I've been practicing with it a bunch here because I can't go anywhere else, and I don't know, like most people think, oh, well, it's got your logo on it, that's all you're going to throw, and I can't stress this enough. That's not the case. My job is to knock over 10 pins the best way I know how. If a ball that doesn't have my logo on it is going to do that, then I'm going to throw that ball, and vice versa. If it happens to have my logo on it, it's not because it's got my logo on it, it's because that's the ball for me that I think is going to do the job. And when I'm practicing, I'm going through my arsenal, man, I tend to pull trend 2 out more than any other ball right now. And to me, that's usually a really clear indication that I'm going to use this a lot. And hopefully a lot of other people see a need for it too.
Yeah, I think I have the perfect term for you in terms of what you've described. And I kind of just thought of it as you were speaking. I think it's really user-friendly. Like, as I was moving around the lane, I was using or making adjustments that I normally would make with different bowling balls, kind of rolling it more, trying to shape it a little more by getting my hand around it. And it seemed like Trend 2 wanted to stay a little more true to what it was doing and not, kind of overhook, like you say, when you miss a little bit into the friction or go through it too much if you miss into the oil. It was all kind of a little more compact, and the ball reaction was closer to what it just wanted to do.
So you want a bowling ball where you feel like, okay, if I have a range of, say, X to Y, and if I release that ball in that range, I'm still going to see a relatively consistent ball motion, then we as players have a lot more faith and belief in that bowling ball, which then allows us to execute even better. And then even though we have that range, you tend to find you're executing at a smaller range because you know you can go further. Mm-hmm. So you tend to relax a little bit and have a little bit more confidence. Where on the flip side, if you feel like you have to be perfect at the release to generate ball motion consistently, then there's that extra pressure, that extra thought in the back of your mind, like, don't overhit it, don't get around it too much, don't roll it too much, otherwise the ball will do something funky, and we can't give away any frames onto it, let alone potentially multiple frames where you're just a little bit off with your hand. So you're right, user-friendly is a really, really good term. And I've seen a few players from around the world that, I don't know how they did, but they've got their hands on Trend 2 already. And, they've sent me video, and it is really the one key, is there's no one style of player that it seems to do its job well with, right? And again, I even say Trend 2, a trend was probably generated, as we saw, the guys that like to throw it a little straighter up the lane. And even if it was high rep rate, I felt like people were starting to put it into a bit of a box where, yeah, it works really well right at 15. But once you get left of it, we definitely saw other bowling balls in our line that did a better job. And what I'm seeing with trend 2 is, I've seen people throw it straight. I've seen guys like Andres Gomez, who is an absolute expert at the slow hook. He enjoys it, right? I've seen Chris Vi, who obviously is really hot right now and can play any part of the lane, but he was throwing it from way in and seeing great shape. And then, you sent me a video of you bowling in league where it's kind of that heavy roll, kind of smooth roll in the middle of the lane. So you're really covering across the whole spectrum of different players, different styles. It really is exciting to see that thought processes after all these years of collaborations and learning about processes and understanding more and more about it, how my communication with Storm and the work that we're able to do together is really starting to kind of catch a line and being able to see the results that I think are, like you say, user-friendly to as many people as possible.
Yeah, it's been very interesting to see the evolution of your equipment. And I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, I do too. I think most people don't realize. I think a lot of people thought from the very get-go, like I drew the weight block, and, I was the one mixing the cover stocks, and it wasn't like that at all. Like Trend 2 is probably the very first collaboration ball in which I had the majority of the say on what I wanted from this ball and the ability to change the weight block. Like the previous iterations, I wasn't able to make changes or ask for those changes. It was, what are you looking to see? We'll build it for you. And this particular time around, it was like, hey, we built you this weight block. What do you think? I don't like it. Let's do it again. I don't like it. Let's do it again. I love this one. Perfect. And working with Alex Hoskins in particular, it's just really, it's entertaining more than anything because, he just offers you words of wisdom about bowling and technology and bowling balls that while we're working on my collaboration, I'm taking that information and going, that makes a lot of sense for like every other ball in my bag. So when I'm making a ball change now, all of this information that I'm learning to help with the collaboration, I think is going to help with all of the gear in my arsenal.
Absolutely. I think he's a pretty smart guy. And I pick his brain. I'm probably closer to him than most people in the bowling industry. And I pick his brain all the time about this stuff, and it's just crazy that, like, he's throwing information at me, and my brain's just spinning all the time, like, just trying to process what's happening and what I'm hearing, and hopefully it'll be useful one day, like, all that information, but I think it's for us to decipher and apply it how we can.
See, I would prefer to know it and not use it than not know it at all and never be able to use
100%
it.
agree.
So, I'm really enjoying these conversations, these collabs, and I'm super excited. I sent you in an Instagram comment, and I hope you don't think I was being facetious when I said I had you in mind for this ball, and I absolutely did. When we were discussing what part of the lane we want to play, guys like you and Andres and Martin Larson, these are the kinds of guys that I think stylistically more people around the world can relate to and connect to than, say, me. But it's all on a spectrum. So if I find the ball to hook 5 boards more than Trent, as an example, you may see not the same 5-board change, but there will be a percentage more because I'm seeing a percentage more. And I think a lot of people don't connect those dots, that when they see me do something with a bowling ball, they think, well, it's only because you have a 550 RPM and you bowl with 2 hands. I'm like, well, creating the shape that I am, sure, perhaps you're right. But when I'm comparing it to something else, it's just numbers. It's just, this is how much more I see out of it. Mm-hmm. And at 550 RPM, this is what it is. If you're at 370, do the math, right? It won't be as much as me, but you should still see that change. So when I'm talking with the guy at the Storm and they're like, what do you want to see? I'm like, I want to see Darren Tang be able to play 25 at the arrows. I want to see him floated through the middle of the lane, and when it comes off the spot, I just want it to roll heavy. so he doesn't feel like he has to be perfect at the angle at the break point. Same with Andres Gomez. Same with Martin Larson. And those are the kind of conversations that I'm having. And when people say, are you only designing balls for yourself? Which makes me laugh, because in actual fact, never once, especially in Trend 2, but never once in any of the collaboration ideas have I said, how can we design a ball perfect for me to bowl more strikes? Because that's just counterintuitive to the market. Not many people throw it like me, so why would I want a ball designed specifically for me? It's silly. So having guys like you in my thought process is actual true story.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, just don't use it against me to beat me for a major. I would really appreciate that. You can use it to make the show, and if you happen to qualify below me, you can run the ladder towards me, right? Or if you happen to be above me on the ladder and I happen to meet you, it would probably hurt even more knowing that you use a bowling ball with my logo on it to beat me. So,
well, I mean, you did have me in mind, so I feel like you're kind of foreshadowing it to happen. So if it does happen, I'm certainly not going to be mad about it.
It's going to be one of those conundrums where if Darren beats me using this ball, we may sell a lot of these bowling balls. However, if I lose, that's another major championship I can't add to my resume. It's like, what's more important right now?
You've already got the most. I feel like, I think you're doing okay.
Listen, I promise you, when you have the most of something, it's the greediness that wants you to get even more to keep going. So
I'd say I understand, but I don't really understand because I'm not in your position. But I kind of understand what you're saying.
So I want to ask you one real quick question, because I know you drilled it, and I think you told me it was 4x4 by 2.5. Is that correct?
5x4 by 2.5. Yeah, so 5-inch pin.
Okay, yeah, 5-inch pin. So I guess the question that I have for you is, when you drill. Okay, well that makes actually more sense, because I was under the impression it was a 4x4. So now that it's 5, it makes a whole lot more sense as to why you drilled it that way. Because I was thinking to myself, a 4-inch pin, like I wonder if he did give it a little bit more length in the pin, if he would see a little bit more push.
Yeah, that'd have been a little
down
strong.
lane. Yeah, a little strong. And then I just remember reading it going, I guess he likes the ball in a lot of oil, and I guess he wants to see a slightly stronger drilling. But
I mean, I need a solution for a league, so maybe that's it.
I guess my question to you, right, is when you throw it, or when you because the video you sent me was of league and you were fairway left, but do you try to manipulate your hand with a ball like this? Like if a ball is designed to create this kind of really continuous arc, do you try to help it, or do you just kind of let it go as a very A-game natural roll and let the ball do its thing?
I'm pretty meticulous about what I'm seeing when the ball hits the pin, so it doesn't come down to what the ball is, it's more of just what I'm seeing. So if I see a certain something happen, I'm going to do what my brain and my body are telling me to do.
Right, so when you were throwing Trend 2, were you seeing, and this is feedback for me to understand so I can take it back to Storm as well, were you seeing that really continuous shape? Did it stand up too soon still? Did you feel like it was getting behind the 10 pin, behind the head pin a little too much? Like, what were you seeing now that I know that you're meticulous about the way the ball goes through the pin?
Yeah, so I've thrown it against the original Trend now, Pro Motion, and Zen. It's definitely more continuous than Trend and Zen, I think. Pro Motion I have shined up, and it's just not. It's got a lot of games on it too, so it's super continuous. So compared to that one, it's just a little less. But that was the first thing I thought of against Trend, because I threw Trend and Trend 2 in league, and it was definitely rounder, more continuous, and all that good stuff.
Did you happen to hit it with any surface? Or
I hit it with 2000 before I even threw it, because I knew I was bowling league, and the kind of oil I felt like kind of told me to do that. I've been struggling in league, and I think for that reason, so.
Yeah, well, league and PBA tour play,
It's not the same. Yeah, when you sent me that text, I was like,
I get this all the time. They're like, oh, you must average like 260 in league. I'm like, actually, I barely average 210 in league. It's
yeah.
Like, the patterns are brutal. They're like, what do you mean they're brutal? I'm like, oh man, they're so much harder for me to control. Because
Yeah.
when dry, I get so funky on
The average bowler just doesn't quite like. There's so much to understand about both sides of it, and it's hard for them to understand why we struggle when they're really easy like that.
It really is. It makes no sense logically. You try and tell anyone, oh, a pro struggles on easier house shots. Like, yeah, actually, we really do.
I did have a YouTube comment.
We really prefer it to be a little harder.
The guy was like, "You make this look harder than the tour," and I just said, "It is."
That's so true. It's so true. All right, so the next time that you take it to league, what do you think, if you could make it roll or fit a little better, what would you do different?
Specifically for this league, I'd probably hit it with more surface, so I just want to blend out that cliff, because I've had the same issue every single week, and my ball's getting behind the head pin no matter what I throw. So I have yet to bring really strong bowling balls, though, so I think that's going to be next on the table. So maybe I'll bring Trend 2 and just hit it with maybe 1,000 or so and see how that looks.
Yeah, good idea. No, good idea. I think the cover itself, the NRG hybrid, like I think if you do hit it, in theory, that cover should grip the lane and enough to blend it out, especially with 1,000. And like we said, like when we hit it with Shine out of the box, we were thinking about everyone in mind, right? And most people, well, they need a little more length out of the ball before, especially when you're playing on a double shift league or something like that. You're certainly needing something to push, and that's another reason why we also modified the weight block, was to generate that length. So now you have this modified weight block that's helping get the ball down the lane, and you have a shiny cover. So yeah, theoretically you should get a whole lot of length, but that NRG cover is just strong enough to make sure it doesn't blow through the end of the pattern. So I would be really keen to see what happens when you do hit it with an extra 1,000, and then just see how that blends out the back, because I think you're right. In my head, as I'm thinking and watching you bowl, I can see you totally like on tour, like that 39 to 41 foot oil pad, where it's like game 3, 4, 5, that transition period where, you know, you probably started with like a urethane ball up 10 for the first 2 games, right? And then you're moving left of it, and you're still trying to use that urethane ball because, you know, you can curve it, but now you're starting to see everyone else around you striking a lot with something else, and then you get this ball out. That's what I have in mind, that 39 foot to 41 foot oil pattern where you get left of that transition, it floats, and then just hits the friction that's been created from the first couple of games, and then it just tumbles into the pocket. And I'm really thinking that's going to be like a game changer ball reaction for you with this trend too. That's what I'm thinking, because that's what I'm going to be doing with it.
I hope you're right. I really do. Well, you have any more questions for me? They say great minds think alike, right? I think I'm on the right track. At least I hope so. I don't have any more questions. You've described this ball.
Get rid of each other.
I think you've described the ball in very in depth, and I hope user friendly. I think that's going to be the theme of this ball.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate it. I do, and I just want to probably take this moment to just again really, really thank the guys at Storm, just because there are so many different ways working a collaboration can go, right? And you think about a manufacturer who is the biggest, the best, who make countless amounts of great bowling balls. They definitely could just look at me and say, listen, kid, you don't know what you're talking about in this space. We build bowling balls. We know what we're doing. We're happy to put your logo on the side of it. Just be happy. And they really aren't. They're constantly trying to communicate, trying to better our collaborations by working with me. And I don't know, it's a really amazing thing that, you know, Storm are able to actually not have that ego about their equipment, to be, we don't need to talk to anyone. We're just going to do our thing. And they just aren't. They're totally a company that listens. And it's unusual. It really is unusual when you go to a big company or a company that's the best of something, that are very genuinely determined determined to listen to their audience, and that's exactly what Storm is doing with me specifically, and I'm trying to do that with my audience as the fans, and I don't know, I'm just really, really thankful. So I just wanted to take that opportunity.
Yeah, I feel pretty. I mean, probably not similar to you because you've been in a different position and you've been able to do different things with them. But maybe one day we'll be in the same position on our end. But I do appreciate them as well. They've treated me well for as long as I've been with them. So it's awesome to see that other players.
Well, I don't know if you've been told this, but you know, I do get the ear of people there in the office a little bit, and you know, your story in particular is one of the reasons why I think Storm is super proud of you as an individual, because here is a kid who is just really worked his behind off to reach a goal that has meant so much to him, and Storm, they love success for us as individuals, but there's always a part of it that's like we were a part of this journey with our equipment. And to see the progress, I've been told by a few people in the office, like when you won, that the whole office was just, it was one of those like cheering, victorious moments in the office when you were able to win, because their equipment plus your hard work, and obviously you're a good guy and you have a great relationship with some, probably everyone in the office, but especially with the guys that you work with in the office, there was this moment where everyone was just super thrilled that it worked out and you got your victory. So I don't know if you knew that, but I know the office was super proud of you and super happy. And I don't know, again, that's another reason why I just love the company so much. Like, you know, they are invested in us as human beings. Like, when we don't have great weeks, it affects them. Like, you talk to Bill Chrisman and you have a bad week and you talk to him about it, he talks to you like it's happening to him. You know, it's like, he's offering advice and wisdom, and, you know, he wants you to, he always says, come to the plant, work on your game. Like, you know, it's just not what people would expect from a big company like that. They're such a loving company. So we're very lucky. We are, no doubt one day when, you know, you win a whole bunch more, there'll be a urethane. A Urotang. Isn't that what you wanted to call it? Urotang?
Yeah, it's
could
coming.
Be a Urotang collaboration, or who knows? Maybe there'll be like a 3-way collaboration on Trend 7. And it'll be Tang Belmo Storm collaboration on Trend 7.
I'm not against it. I hope you're right. Hopefully sooner than that.
All right, my man. I'm going to get going.
All right.
Good talking to you.
Yes, sir.
And, hey, I'm really glad that Trend 2 looks like it rolls pretty good for me.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted on more to come.
All right. Peace out, man.
Thanks for the call.